Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of In My Experience. My name is Wes McBee, and in this series, I like to just sit down and talk about things that I've experienced throughout my life. If you look at some of the other episodes, I've talked about like going to Skinwalker Ranch, an episode about psychedelics. What else have I talked about? Unusual encounters, living life, being an only child. And I guess the whole idea and the reason why I'm doing this is just to share my perspective of this thing that we call life and things that I'm doing to enjoy it, or things that I'm doing just because I'm a human and having my own human experience. This episode's going to be interesting. I'm not quite sure what the reception's going to be, but I decided that I'm going to talk about my belief system. And the title, I'm sure, gave it away. I am atheist. Now, before listening any further, don't go down in the comment section and tear me apart and try to explain how I'm wrong and you're right or whatever it is. It's not going to do any good. Because I respect everyone else's belief system, so I would appreciate that on my side as well. What I want to do with this episode is I kind of want to explain how I got to that belief system. If you're here thinking that I'm going to tear apart or try and, disrespect other, religions or thought processes, that's not this video. I'm way past that immaturity in my life, and it doesn't do any good, and it's pointless. However, I'm going to just talk about how it was growing up with these thoughts and feelings and ideas, where the positives, the negatives, the flaws in the thought process, the pros in the thought process. And then I also have a atheist frequently asked questions, and I'm going to go through uh, some of these questions because I've heard a lot of them, and I feel like I have answers to some of them. And the thing is like with any belief system, you want to be the expert in your belief system, but at the end of the day, 90% of the stuff, who knows? Who knows, right? So I'm going to start with the earliest thought process I ever had about religion. Strangely enough, I remember, I don't know what age it was, but I remember having this thought in my head when I first started thinking about like what life is, I guess you could say. I had this weird idea that like I came from like some sort of animal, and that when I die, I would be like put into like a pool type thing, and you get drawn and then you get put into a different animal or human. And I always thought that was kind of interesting because I know that's a different, I don't know which Eastern Asian culture or religion necessarily believes in that, but those were my earliest thoughts of any type of afterlife slash religion. Was I thought that there was reincarnation, and I always thought that was a weird thing that was my first ever real thought on the matter. Now, I grew up in a household where religion wasn't taught. I was allowed full freedom. I wasn't pressured into my local religion. I wasn't pressured into my parents' belief systems. I was just kind of allowed to figure it out. And I do appreciate my parents a lot for that. I think that that is a very bold, and I'm sure at the same time scary thing to allow your child to do, just because you could have issues with other locals, being the kid who isn't part of the whatever's popular in your area. It also could lead your kid to having, potentially, you know bad interactions with people. What it did for me is I never really, when I was a kid, I never had any issues that I can think of really with people when it came to religion. Because I think for the most part, until maybe like junior high, high school ish, I didn't really understand all the practices. And I guess I should say I live in Utah, right? So primarily I'm talking about like LDS, but I have Christian and Catholic friends as well, and a couple other more smaller sects of religion. But I never really had problems, and to be honest with you, like from first grade all the way to maybe eighth or ninth grade, my closest friends were all a part of it, uh, and they were always very respectful. Like they would we would all ask questions to each other, like, "Well, why don't you go to church?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's just something I don't do." And then I'd be like, "Oh, why do you go?" And say, "Oh, it's just something we do." And it was never an issue. I had questions that I would ask, and sometimes I'd have awkward moments when I would go over for like dinners and stuff, because like do the whole blessing the food, and but I never felt unwelcome anywhere, and I never felt disrespected. I just I think a lot of people have this weird like perception of Utah and LDS. I will tell you this: on average, Mormon families are happier, healthier, and more kind than probably most of the rest of America. And just like any group of any type of organized group, the extremists are the vocal minority that make things look bad. And that's the case with everything. It's the case with Christian, Catholic, Mormon, atheist, everybody. The vocal minority makes it look really bad. And it's not. It's really not. Just like everyone else in the world, any religious group is just, for the most part, the average goer just wants to find their happiness and their part in this crazy thing we call life and live it to its fullest. And I think that if anyone really has problems with that, you you have deeper rooted issues. We're all just trying to, you know, make things work the best that we can. And I don't think that there really is this big divide in our country like people think there is. I think that's just a facade. I don't have issues with anybody. uh, but going back to kind of my experiences, there was only a few times where anything ever like really came up when I was younger, and it was never traumatizing or difficult to get through. Really, I just didn't have answers. When I started dabbling into like researching and learning religions and understanding why people did things, I hung out with, people who were a little bit more vocal about disliking uh, the local local religion, and I kind of fell into that. I don't. I mean, unless I just can't remember, I don't think I ever really had gotten into it too bad with anyone. At least anyone in school. I know that I've said shit in passing to people, and they've said shit back about, how I'm an idiot for not believing, or how I'll say some dumb thing that really isn't important. And I don't know. I really think, to get into the meat and bones of it, like how I truly became an atheist. Because when I was younger, I had no idea. I didn't know what to call what I was. I didn't even know there was a term. I didn't think that there was some higher power controlling everything I did. I don't think that there's, a God or anything along those lines that are dictating this or that. Do I believe the story of Jesus is true? Yeah, I think it happened. Do I think that it has this mystical, spiritual holding on this planet? No, I don't. And it's okay if you disagree. That's cool. I don't have an issue. Like I said, we're all just trying to live happily. Uh, when I started diving into my research, it was done on the internet, and you got to really avoid confirmation bias, especially in today's day and age, because you can easily fall into groups of people who just want to feed you information that you think you want to know. The only way to really get an idea of religion is you have to study all sides of it. The people who believe it fully, the people who kind of believe it, the people who don't really believe it, and the people who really don't believe it. And you have to merge all that together and really formulate an opinion. And I've done that with Mormonism, I've done that with Christianity, and a lot of the main sects of religion. And I come to the same resolution each time. And I guess my main thing is if I did believe in a God, I don't understand why you just can't have that relationship without all the other stuff. I don't understand why you have to go and give yourself to a church. I don't understand why you would have to pay, because that's a thing in certain religions, to get to your best heaven. I don't understand those things. If I believed in God and he believed in me, I would think that I would be able to have that relationship without worrying about anyone else. I also think that faith is not a human trait. I do think faith is a taught trait, that if your household is one of God, they teach you certain things. And I believe faith falls into that category. And if you aren't taught that at a young age, you very rarely see cases of people who gain that later in life. And I'm not saying ones who were religious and then stopped being religious and then went back to religion. Those who weren't at the start and didn't have those teachings typically won't pick up faith as a characteristic. It just allows, it doesn't process. And I don't think a lot of individuals understand that. Like, saying you have to have faith, or faith is a part of it, to someone who wasn't taught that, it doesn't process. It really doesn't. So I didn't have faith. That was not ever anything that was taught to me. And I have gone through my whole life not needing any of it. And there is a very weird thing of like, well, how do you know what's morally right? I don't think morals were ever created by God. Morals are created from experiences of our ancestors and the experiences of individuals. You can be a fantastic human being without having any of believing in any type of God or religion, and vice versa. You can be a fantastic human being believing in it. I personally don't think that it was created. I think it's learned. Like we as a species fucked up a lot. We really have. And we've learned from all of those mistakes. Well, we try to say that we learn from these mistakes, but we keep making them. And we're getting better and better as time goes on, but we're still not anywhere close to where we should be. Going into later life, I do want to point out one major thing here. I hope I'm wrong. I do. Like, it gets bleak sometimes. It really does. Like, I don't, like, in my personal opinion, I don't think I'm wrong. And I do find it I find it a little disheartening and very arrogant individuals who claim that they for sure know that there's something that happens after we die. I can promise you that no one on this planet right now knows for sure because they're not dead. I mean, we can claim that we think we know things, but it's never 100%. Just like in my thought process, I could be 100% wrong. And I will never claim to be 100% right in anything because I don't live in absolutes. I don't. I don't absolutely believe in anything. This is just my thought process on the matter. Could God exist? Possibly. I can't prove or disprove anything I can't see. But that goes both ways. And some text that has been altered throughout our history that has been proven to be used for control, I don't think that that has any proof. And I don't think that if your family had the values that they taught you, or I shouldn't say values, excuse me, that if your family and culture didn't have that religion, you probably wouldn't have learned it either. Very few people in today's day and age are going to religion because of what's out there in the world. Technology kind of shines a lot of light. Research shines a lot of light on a lot of things. But at the end of the day, like I said, I hope I'm wrong. Because it is a bummer having the mindset of, well, when I die, it's done. It sucks. And I'm sure people who are religious listening to this going like, how could you even live like that? I don't think about it 90% of the time. And I do all the things that bring me happiness, and I will continue to do that until I don't. Just like you. We're not any different, you and I. 2 points if you can quote the movie. We just have we just experience different things, you know? I can't say that I would believe the same thing I do now if I was born into a Christian family or a Catholic family or a LDS family or a Jewish family. I don't know, because I would have been raised different. I would have been taught different things. I think the biggest thing too is when you get to read these religious texts for the first time by yourself, and you don't have anyone telling you what it should mean, or what they think it means, or what God is trying to tell you what it means. When you read it and you just take the information in and you form your own opinion, I think that in itself changes a lot of things. It really does. You know, it's it makes a lot of things really, really silly. Where I'm at nowadays, sorry, I don't want to fast forward too much. In my junior high days, I was more of a little punk and would want to debate people. And then I got into high school, and I thought it would be funny to be rude to missionaries. Like, I don't know, because I thought I was cool. I look back on it and I'm embarrassed. I am. And it just, there came a point in my life where I just realized everyone's just experiencing this thing we call life. And it's, no one's more right and no one's more wrong. And you can debate people all day long. The only people that I ever want to talk to are the ones that are open to actually hearing. So a lot of people will listen, but they aren't hearing what you're trying to say. They'll listen to argue. They'll listen to tell you you're wrong. So what's the point? If you're someone who finds yourself arguing in Facebook a lot, you're the problem. If you're the one who can't listen to someone else's point of view, that's the issue. if you gotta listen, you gotta hear how their human experiences got them to that point and why they still believe in it, because you can really learn a lot from other people. You know, it's kind of beautiful at the end of the day that I live in an area where so many people have experienced life way different than me, and vice versa. It's kind of cool, you know, and not a lot of places in the world allow that. You know, I can have the freedom to do what I want and think what I want, and you know, you get backlash on the internet. Who gives a shit? The internet's not real life. You know, no one's gonna come up to you and be like, "You fucking blah 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 blah." Like, that's not real. And if they do, like, they got bigger issues. You know, I've had, I won't lie, I've had death threats from people online, even talking about stuff like this. It's, I just feel bad for them. I feel embarrassed and bad for them. It's there is a lot of I will say there is a lot of stress-free thinking when it comes to this, because like I don't worry about having the approval of others. I don't worry about God not loving me or not getting into a heaven or hell. I make decisions based on a moral compass that I believe is fair and just. I think that morality is can be subjective, but we all are pretty obvious with it's pretty obvious, like the good and like what's good and what's bad. Uh, you know, I have things that make me happy that, you know, maybe some religious people won't agree with, and they have things that would make them happy that I don't agree with. And doesn't mean that I hate anybody, and I hope they don't hate me. I'll drink coffee and have premarital sex. Oops. Does it make me a bad person? I'm sure in some people's eyes it does. Do I think I'm a bad person? Absolutely not. I think I've lived a life of pretty charitable and pretty helpful, and I don't say that from a point of trying to be arrogant, but I do say that from a point of being told that I am not those things because I don't believe in a God or a religion. That's neither here nor there. Living my life now, it doesn't really usually come up. A lot of people, when they find out, they're usually like, "Oh, well, whatever," because I try to be genuine with everyone. I don't go out of my way to have those type of conversations because at the end of the day, they're typically not fun. Very rarely have I ever had constructive conversations when it's in that genre of discussion. I mean, they still say some of the worst subjects to ever talk about is politics, religion, and I don't know what else falls in there anymore. But you typically don't talk about religion and politics because it's, for some reason, people are super heated. Now, you'll never see a political video on here because I don't do politics at all. And you probably won't see any religious videos aside from this one unless it's asked. On my podcast, yeah, I do bring on people who are wanting to talk about their either, you know, I had a great guest on who talked about him leaving the church after growing up in it. And I had a lot of amazing feedback from that episode, and people who were like, man, I feel like I was in the same situation. I'm glad that people are coming to tell their stories. And, you know, I am always open to have conversations with individuals who would like to, but it has to be a two-way street of, you know, me listening and understanding you, and you listening and understanding me. So if anyone would like to, please, my door's always open. I'll make us dinner and we can talk in front of a camera. Now, I want to jump into some of the frequently asked questions just because I'm staring at them and I keep looking at them, and it's interesting to me. So, I'll probably skip over some of them just because, I don't know. Where does morality come from if not God? Like I said, I think it comes from the experiences of humans passed down over and over. I don't think we have to have God for morality. I think if we didn't over time produce morality for our life, humans wouldn't be here. Religion did have a big impact on that for sure, because most people throughout our history did believe in God and did believe in those morals. So that's perfectly fine. I don't think that it came from God. I think it came from text for sure. Why don't atheists find biblical prophecy convincing? I don't find it convincing because the only thing that anyone can prove to me without, how do I word it? No one can prove anything to me without it being opinion. You can point me to texts or, certain things that maybe they've experienced, but at the end of the day, it's all opinion. And I feel like biblical prophecy, I wasn't there. No one here was listening. And we have to trust the individuals who wrote it and the individuals who altered it, and and then the next group of people who altered it, and then the people who took it, the altering, and made a different idea of it, and then a different idea of it, and then through so on and so on until it gets to your ancestors, and then you have to believe that all your ancestors were doing the right thing, but you really can't prove any of that because you weren't there. That's why I don't find it convincing. It's, at the end of the day, the only thing that I know is true is what well, excuse me. I don't think there's anything that's 100% true when it comes to religion, prophecy, atheism, any of it. There's no set 100%. But I don't believe anything that's passed down that I wasn't involved with in some way. I really don't. I how can I trust people who had their own agendas at the time? How can I trust people who altered text multiple times? I mean, most of the time we aren't even reading, like most Christianity or Catholic, like we're not even reading the original text anymore. And it's just, I don't buy it. I don't. If God shows up tomorrow and I'm wrong, sweet, that's great. But I want to hear it from him. I want to hear him and understand why. Do you believe all this came about by random chance or by accident? I think that's a very cleverly worded question. I don't have an answer for you. I don't. Do I think it was immaculate conception? No. Do I think that anyone can really explain how the universe came to be? No, I don't think we're at that point. Will we be able to in the future? Yeah, if humans are still around, I think we'll have the technology to try and prove it. What it will be, though, I don't think. I think it will be much grander than we even can comprehend now. I don't think it's going to be a god that created all of it. I just don't. I mean, time really doesn't make sense for that. Because why did God wait 62? How long have we known the universe has been here? How old is the universe? So estimated 13.7 billion years old. Why did he wait so long to create humans? And why does it happen to be like perfectly timed for us? We're such a small, like even on Earth, we're just such a small dust of time period. Like such a small dust, the human species. And religion is even a smaller dust than how long humans have been here. If you guys really want my opinions on religion and like my no holds bar trying to be rude, maybe or not trying to be rude, but trying to, you know, explain my thought process, maybe I'll make a video for like Patreon or something like that. But time doesn't make sense for uh, or for the universe and God. If it wasn't God who created the universe, yeah, we don't have an answer. What if you're wrong? Hope I am. I hope there's more to existence than the maybe 100 years I'm here. Can you prove God that doesn't exist? No, but same goes for you. You can't prove it either through, aside from text. What would it take to prove to you that a God exists? Um, a God being here. I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory for me. I mean, I don't I don't want to be rude when I say this, but I don't believe when people say that they hear a voice from God. I I've seen those conversations, and yeah, I don't. I won't speak on it, but yeah, someone's got to show up. Jesus needs to come back. God needs to show up and say why. I, if I here's the thing, and this is the thing that a lot of people just don't quite understand. If I die and there's more to this, I lived a life that isn't going to send me to hell. I haven't done anything bad. I live with pretty high morals for the most part. So if I don't fit in with a specific moral, I'm going to fit in with someone's morals. And if I'm made in God's image, he's going to be like, oh, yeah, you were the one who went down there and didn't believe in me because I wanted to test you. And how was it? And I'm going to be like, man, that was kind of messed up. Oh, well. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, here's your next test. I don't know. Who knows? Right? But if I was made in his image and this is all predetermined, like, I'm doing this for a reason, right? I don't believe in him for a reason. Is it to test other people's faith? Is it to test my own faith? I don't fucking know. But I can tell you this much. I'm not going to spend my life with what ifs. I'm not. And that's the biggest thing, is it's a lot of what ifs. Wouldn't it be safer to just believe than risk going to hell? No. I don't lie to myself. And I wouldn't lie about being religion for gain. What's the point? Where do you think rights come from, if not God? Same as morality. What is your evidence that atheism is true and accurate? My evidence is I don't need to. How do I word this? My evidence is that I don't think faith exists, and I don't believe in text. We could easily believe in any of the other books that were invented and created and written in that time period, but we picked that one and we ran with it. People use it for power, people use it for manipulation, people use it for money. They always have and they always will. That's not always a bad thing, because it allows for the masses to be a little bit more easy living. I mean, the whole joke is, right, like if mankind gets wiped out and then the next era of humans come through whatever way they do, and the first thing they find is Harry Potter, they're going to believe Harry Potter is a holy scripture too. Like, it's just what we've had, what we've been taught. I'm never going to try and say that someone should be an atheist. You are what you are. I don't have. What do you want me to tell you? That, like, the only way that I can prove atheism is accurate is being as arrogant as people who think God is there, and I don't do that. There's no point. Don't you have to be skeptical about skepticism? Irrelevant. How do you know you're right? I don't claim I'm right. Doesn't you being so against God prove he exists? No. Why would that prove that he exists? Because he is a prominent figure in our culture? So is a lot of characters that we've proven to be fictional. Don't you know that you're just supposed to have faith? We already talked about that. How can anyone deny the reality of God when you see a baby? Well, you know how biology and health works, I don't think God's involved in that. Can you prove that love exists? I I'm surprised that's a question on here. I assume they're trying to say that if you can prove that love exists, then you can prove that faith exists. I think love is a interesting thing to discuss. I think that love isn't something that actually happens spiritually or manifest. I think that it's just you meet people who are similar to you and you can bond on those things, and we call that love. What is the point of living without an afterlife or God? Ding, ding, ding. Who knows? Who knows? I don't think there is really a point to all of this, and that's the bleakness of the atheist thought process that people really dislike. But I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but I do hope I am. The point of living at the end of the day is I think we just create our own reasons for living, and we just try and have that happiness go as long as we can. I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing that we can prove is that when we die, we produce carbon. That's kind of all we do. Do you believe in a soul or spirit? No, not necessarily. If you look at some of my videos about ghost hunting and different things like that, that's like one of my biggest contradictions is, I'm fascinated in ghosts and demons and spirits, and I don't really believe in any of that either, but maybe energy, maybe some sort of energy. I think that we've proven that our bodies, we know scientifically that our body produces energy, so maybe there's just, I don't know, maybe what some consider a soul or a spirit is really just what we would consider energy. I don't know. I don't really believe in energy the hippie bullshit way either. I don't think me hoping that someone has good vibes is doing anything for the world either. Are you afraid of going to hell? No, I don't think it exists, just like I don't think heaven exists. Why do atheists support gays so much? We support everyone because we're all having human experiences, and everyone should be able to have that human experience in a positive and upbringing manner. Why don't you get irritated or angry when we cite Bible or Quan verses to you? I don't get irritated or angry. I don't. I get irritated or angry when it is a hostile and arrogant way that you do it. If you'd like me to look up a Bible verse or a Quan verse that you think would help me in the situation I'm in, I'd be more than happy to. Why don't you just sit down and shut up and let others have their beliefs? I do. But that could be said about a large portion of religious people, is why don't you just sit down and shut up? Because you make the people who just want to live in their religion look worse. Where does the meaning and purpose of life come from? I already talked about that. Isn't it hypocritical for atheists to celebrate Christmas, a Christian holiday? We consider Christmas a Christian holiday, but it's a capitalistic holiday in America. It's just about gift giving, and I don't think we really even celebrate Christmas anymore for the original reason. Do atheists have faith? I already talked about that. No. Where do you go when you die? I think that I want to have my body put into one of those tree things. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but basically, like, I don't know if, like, they cremate you or how it works, but, like, you pretty much go into, like, this, like, weird, like, bucket thing. I think it's cremated ashes, and then they put a seed in there, and then a tree grows from that seed with your ashes. So it's like a kind of a cool way to, like, memorialize without it being like a graveyard type thing. I think that'd be the best for me. I know that's not the question they were asking, but let's see here. Why don't you believe the Bible? Why don't you believe Harry Potter? Would you worship God to avoid going to hell? No. Like I said, I wouldn't lie to myself to try and avoid a bad thing from happening. If at the end of the day I I die and I go to, I forget what it's called, where you pretty much get told if you're getting into heaven or not, and they determine that I am going to hell, well, then I fucked up, bud. If you think we're just animals, why not act like it? That's a very rude statement to say. How can you have justice without God? I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know how those two are connected. Have you tried to believe in God? Yeah. There was a point in my life where I tried to understand the perspective of believing in a God, and I tried, and I felt like I was lying to myself a lot. Um, and I was just doing it for myself. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't trying to gain favor. I wasn't doing it. Obviously, my family. I wasn't doing it for family. I was trying to do it for myself, and I felt like I was lying to myself. And I tried praying multiple times on it, and at the end of the day, I realized I was just talking to myself. Next question. Do atheists believe in prayer? No. I do believe in meditation, and I think that a lot of people praying could be a form of meditation for them. And that's a conversation that's not being had often. What do you base your beliefs from? My experiences. My ability to have the freedom to learn my own beliefs and not be taught my beliefs. Why aren't atheists vocal about their atheism? There's no point. I don't want to be militant about it. I don't want to try and ruin other people's day by saying that their religion's dumb. I don't see the point. Like I'll happily have constructive conversations, and if it sways someone's opinion, that's fine. But I don't. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit if someone else is an atheist or not. Like, if you're a Christian and you want to have an argument with me, I'm not going to try and sway you to be an atheist because I just don't care. Like, you do you, I'm going to do me. Why don't atheists believe in near-death or out-of-body experiences? I've never heard that before. I think that near-death and out-of-body experiences don't necessarily have to be connected with God or religion. I do think that you can have a high trigger of your pineal gland, and that can cause an out-of-body experience, or what we call a near-death experience, because it pumps your brain full of that. I forget what the chemical is called. Basically, it lets you hallucinate. It's the chemical the reason why we dream. What is in it for me to be an atheist? Really? Nothing. I guess, like, it's probably more stress-free, but it's also bleak. I don't know. I feel like if there has to be anything in it for anything regarding religion or atheism, probably doing it for the wrong reasons. Do atheists want to take religious freedom from Christians? No. No. I'm sure there's extremists who do, but like we could probably all agree on, extremists in every situation are bad. What would it take to prove that Jesus exists? I do think Jesus exists. Not white Jesus. That's fucking not cool. I think Jesus did exist. I think Jesus is a story that is worth telling and is a very good one. But I don't think that he was the son of God, and I don't think that he did anything mystical. I don't. I think it's just a good story, and you can learn lessons from it, for sure. But you can learn lessons from a lot of stories. Why do some atheists get offended when I say I'll pray for you? Oh, I think that some atheists, just like anyone, are a bunch of fucking tightly wound cunts. I'm not afraid to say that. Like, if someone says bless you or they'll pray for me, I really appreciate that. Because as long as you're not saying it in a condescending or arrogant way, if someone is willing to take the time out of their day to pray, to take their religious beliefs and pray for me, to do whatever it is, like for better, for good, for health, whatever it is, that is a very respectful thing to do. It really is. And if atheists don't see it from that perspective, I'm sorry. I really am. I'm sorry that if you had bad experiences with that, they're they have a lot of issues they need to work out aside from, you know, dealing with people. How can you dismiss the Bible, Quran, if you haven't read it? I have read it. I have. And it, yeah, I don't want to have that conversation here. How are things beautiful without God? That is a silly question to ask. Yeah, I don't even know how to get into that one. That's really silly. Major misconceptions. Do you only believe in what you can see, touch, feel, etc.? For the most part, yeah. Yeah. Aren't you just rebelling against God because you want to sin? No. I think our definition of sin would probably not align, because things that some religious people see as sin, I, I guess I wouldn't. I'm not talking about bad things. I made a joke about premarital sex and drinking coffee, but I can promise you this: that the majority of people who are in a religion have sinned by doing things they don't even realize are a sin, because they probably also haven't read through all of the religious texts, or probably don't follow every little thing. You know, that at a young age, that was one thing that really bothered me. It's like the pick and choosing of things that are cool and not cool. Are atheists empty, unhappy people? No, I'm fairly happy, and I'm not empty. When we talk about afterlife, sure, but I don't find myself unhappy most of the time, and I don't find myself empty. Why do you ignore all the evidence around you for a God? I don't see any of that evidence that isn't opinion. Don't atheists believe there is no God? I don't think there is any gods. Do atheists believe in nothing? Uh, I don't know. I think the two closest things that I would potentially think are possible is, one, we're in a simulation, which would be shitty. I don't like that idea. Or some sort of universal consciousness. Not a god per se, but the universe itself is conscious. And I don't, that's a new theory that's kind of come about in the last 10, 15 years, maybe a little bit longer. But the idea, because like we really don't understand space, we don't understand the universe or the galaxy from like a scientific point of view, because that's more where I align myself. And no, I can't debate the science proves God stuff. I don't get it. Um, but yeah, I think that maybe the universe is doing something more than we understand, but I don't think it's anything. I don't think any of us understand it. I don't think it's a religious thing. I don't think it's a God thing. I think the universe could potentially be something more, and we just don't understand. What bad experience made you hate God? There wasn't one. That's a question I have heard before. Like, what caused you to hate God? I don't hate anything. I think it's a very judgmental question to assume that something bad happened to me to make me hate God. I don't hate God. I don't hate something I don't believe, but I also don't hate the religion for existing. I didn't have bad experiences. I was able just to create my own. If you don't worship God, do you worship yourselves? I don't know. I don't necessarily say I would worship myself, but I take my. I don't know. I would say no, I don't worship myself, especially not on the level of like people worship God. Why are you so closed minded? I would probably consider myself much more open minded with most things in life than probably a lot of people who have a little bit narrow defining qualities. I'm willing to. Let's just say I've studied most religions that are in the mainstream sect, and I don't think that many people who choose one have done that. Did atheism cause Stalin to murder? I'm actually not familiar. I don't know what that is. Hold on, I got a cough. We're going longer than I wanted to. Will you admit there's a possibility of God? Sure. That 1%. I can't prove or disprove anything I can't see. Why are atheists so angry? I'm sure some are. Not all are. Are you an atheist because of evolution? No. Not fully. I think evolution is definitely a side proof of atheism, but I'm not an atheist because of evolution. Let's see here. Is atheism a religion? I don't know. I think that there's some people who want to try and make it a religion. I think that's silly. I do. I think it, like I said earlier, I don't need an organized anything to have my belief system. What is the difference between agnostic and an atheist? I think agnostic is just you believe there is a potential and it's just not being proved, where an atheist doesn't. I don't think there's a possibility, but like I said, I don't live in absolutes. What is faith? A taught characteristic. Uh, why call yourself an atheist? No one calls himself a Santa Clausist. That's pretty disrespectful. Well, I'm not like in someone's face being like, well, I'm an atheist. I guess except for everyone who clicked on this video, I am. Well, why do you call yourself a Christian or a Catholic or a uh, or any of them? I don't know. Just easier. Let's see here. Why do atheists have faith in science? Because math is something that we discovered that can prove science. And when I can see fundamental building blocks and the visible proof of why something exists and how it's explained, I believe in it. Isn't it arrogant to say that science has all the answers? Uno reverse card. Isn't it arrogant to say that religious has all the answers? None of us have all the answers. Would you believe the Bible if it predicted scientific facts? Sure. No, I don't know. Like, can you give me an example? Questions from atheists. Why do people believe in God when there's no evidence? Oh, yeah. How can you explain or convince a religious person that there is no God? You shouldn't. Let them live their life. But yeah, that's pretty much all of them. This ran on longer than I thought it was going to be, so no one's going to watch to this point. If you do, what's up? What do you think? Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Let me know if you want me to discuss this further, because I'll be more than happy to. If you'd like to have a conversation with me and you want to either hop on Zoom or you're local and want to do an episode of my podcast, please reach out. I'd love to have that conversation. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Peace.